Hi guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm so excited for and a little daunted by because friends, we're going to be chatting about the top books I want to read before the end of the year. I cannot believe we essentially have 2 months left in 2025. It's a little terrifying to think that 2026 is just around the corner. I'm also currently 11 books behind in my reading goal, so needless to say, I have a lot of hopes and dreams attached to this TBR because I am hoping to catch up before January 1st. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my priority reads before 2026. The first book on my TBR is a very exciting, very hyped new release, and that is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. This, of course, is the sequel to the blockbuster hit of The Will of the Many, which I read a couple of years ago and really enjoyed. This is a Roman-inspired fantasy story that is very, very plot forward. I mean, the action, twists, and turns of the first one absolutely took my breath away, so I'm expecting to, one, really like this second novel and also fly through it, at least hopefully, because it is quite chunky and I need to read like 25 more books before December 31st. This series is set in a Roman-inspired world where hierarchy is everything. Everyone literally submits their will to the empire, and this fuels their magic system. The higher you are up on this pyramid hierarchy, the more access to will you have and the more powerful you are. Our main character is trying to lay low in this empire after his lands were taken over, and he will do anything to prevent having to give over his will. At the beginning of book 1, he catches the eye of some very powerful political figures and basically is enrolled in this prestigious military academy to act as a spy. Unfortunately for him, another political faction notices him and also wants him to spy on their behalf. Two groups of people who do not know about each other. Our main character is having to balance a lot of different political interests while also just trying to survive and pass his classes. Again, so much action. The magic system is really interesting and also fantastic characters. The first one left me absolutely breathless, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing where the rest of the story is going to take us next, because I truly cannot anticipate it. The next book I have to show off is the book I'm currently reading, and that is The Second Death of Locke, another one of my most anticipated releases of the year. This is a knight mage fantasy with definitely some strong romance and yearning at the core of it. I've read about 100 pages and I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite obsessed. It has a grim, dark, very harrowing setting with a lot of violence, interesting politics, but again, the yearning between the two main characters is unreal. It's absolutely ripping me up inside, which is exactly what I'm looking for in terms of romance stories. But to take a step back, this follows our main character Gray, and Gray is a well, meaning she is quite literally a walking source of magic for her sworn to mage, who's named Kier. They have been childhood friends. They're very, 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 very close and have a very complicated relationship. At the beginning of this book, they're both involved in the military. There's a lot of conflict in the land that they live in, and they're also trying to protect and hide Gray's secret, which is she's actually like the lost heir to a destroyed kingdom, which would put both of them like in a lot of danger. So far, the politics are super interesting. I'm loving this sort of fantastical medieval setting. And again, the character dynamics are delicious. Another newer release I'm hoping to get to is The Hexologists, A Tangle in Time by Josiah Bancroft. Josiah Bancroft is one of my favorite fantasy writers. He has a wonderful combination of whimsy with great characters and plots. A lot of his stories read like adult middle grade, which is a sweet spot I personally love within the genre. This, of course, is the sequel to The Hexologists, which I loved so much. I feel like this is a super underrated series. If you love like serialized mystery series centering a dynamic duo, this is the series for you. You're following a married couple as they get wrapped up in like various investigations. It's set in a London Industrial Revolution inspired magical world, and there's these different factions of magic that also have different amounts of political power. There's very fascinating politics, hilarious character dynamics, and truly gripping mysteries. If you love like the Tainted Cup series by Robert Jackson Bennett, this is another fantastic series to check out. I'm really looking forward to getting to this new release and sequel because I love the plot and characters so much. The next book on my TBR is The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. I have not read a Brandon Sanderson book in all of 2025, which just feels weird. And I currently still have 2 secret project releases on my TBR, so it felt like what a great opportunity to pick one up. So I've decided to check out the Sunlit Man. This is the 4th of his original secret projects, but now there's a 5th one, which I recently received. I actually want to go into this knowing as little as possible, but I do believe this is part of the Cosmere, and we're following a character on a planet that has like very dangerous sunlight. So I think an element of like day and night is really, really important within this. As always for these editions, they're just stunning reading experiences with just beautiful art throughout that really adds to the overall vibe, if you ask me. I've heard really good things about this one. I loved 2 of the 3 of the previous projects I've read, so I'm hoping I really like it, and I'm hoping this is like a quicker, very plot-driven read. Additionally, I'm also very much hoping to get to Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. Again, another exciting new release. I've been on a book buying ban now for a few weeks, so I'm really trying to get to the books I bought recently so I can catch up a bit. But obviously, I love R.F. Kuang so much, and this is her newest fantasy standalone following 2 academic rivals as they descend into hell to try to find their mentor. It's her reinterpretation of Dante's Inferno. It's had some interesting discourse online. I feel like some people are mixed about this release, so I'm really curious to see where I'm personally going to fall because I have enjoyed a lot of her releases in the past. I've read, I think, all of her books, so obviously I need to get to this soon. And again, another long fantasy book to get to before the end of the year, but that's just how I like things. Then we have Dungeon Crawler Carl. This series I feel like is everywhere. It's been out for quite a few years, but it just feels like recently everyone has been picking it up. Apparently it's outrageous, over the top, incredibly gripping. And I've also especially heard very good things about the audiobook, and I've been on an audiobook kick recently with walking and puzzling and other hobbies. I've just been flying through so many like audio experiences. So I specifically put this on my TBR because one, I think it'll be like fun, but also I want to listen to the audiobook as I'm doing like other activities. This story I believe is inspired by like real dungeon crawler video games and stories, and it's also an absurd fantasy read. Our main character is experiencing an apocalypse and it's being televised, and we're following our main character Carl and his pet cat Donut as they're just trying to survive like the next level of this apocalypse. It sounds pretty interesting. Again, people love this so much, and I do appreciate how eye-catching these covers are, but I'm curious to see for myself. I will keep y'all posted. Then I also really want to get to Red City by Marie Lu. It has been so many years since I've read a Marie Lu book, and this one not only has been getting incredible buzz, but the setup just sounds like something I would love. It's essentially a urban fantasy story following a city where multiple crime syndicates hold a lot of power because they control the production of this substance that people take to become more powerful. The magic system is centered around alchemy, and 2 best friends that basically find themselves on the opposite side of this like Cold War that's heating up between these 2 different syndicates. I love all of those inputs immensely. I've heard that this is so engaging and so plot forward, and I just want to get to it now. I know the wait for the next installment is going to be torture, but it feels absolutely worth it, and I want to read it right away. Another book I'm so excited to pick up is A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Perry. I've been having an H.G. Perry fall and winter, and this is quite literally the last book by this author on my shelf I have not read. And because I'm in a book buying ban, I can't go out and buy anymore, so I'm determined to at least finish what I have available to me. This is said to be for fans of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and H.G. Perry just writes really fantastic historical fantasy stories. This is actually also a duology. All of her other books I've read have all been standalone, so I'm excited to read a series by her. This is set during the Age of Enlightenment and also Revolution. We have new political philosophers expressing their newfound ideals and trying to transform a lot of the current governments in place from a history point of view. But this is also set in a world where magic exists, and apparently there's some sort of like evil force inciting violence. So to take on this evil force, it will require the combined efforts of revolutionaries, magicians, and abolitionists to unmask this hidden enemy before the world falls into darkness and chaos. Again, I feel like H.G. Perry's ability to combine real elements of history with fascinating characters and magic, and also really match the tone of the time periods her books are set in, just make me love her stories so much. So this is definitely a heftier one, but I already know I'm probably gonna love this because I've literally loved every other book of hers I've read. The next book on my TBR also has an element of revolution, and that is City of Last Chances. This book has graced so many TBRs this year. At this point, I need to get to it before it's too late. Everything about the synopsis of this also just sounds so interesting, and I feel like I'm going to like it so much. This is the first book to a series, and the first one, I believe, has like a multitude of different point of views. It's more about establishing the setting and kicking off the plot, and then I believe in later installments we zero in on more specific characters. But this book opens up on a city on the brink of revolution, and we follow sort of the events of this uprising through, again, multitudes of different perspectives of people living in the city, from bakers to soldiers, from people in power to the everyday man, and everything becomes very messy and very interconnected in a way that I feel like I'm gonna eat up. I love uniquely structured stories, and I also love books that have these types of themes and topics to them, so I'm very much looking forward to this. I need to get to it. I don't know why I haven't. In an effort to read a bit more sci-fi as well, I also want to read Retribution Falls by Chris Wooding. The setup of this just sounds fun and really is full of things that I just enjoy pretty much every single time. And that is a ragtag group of individuals taking on a job, it going bad, and finding themselves in like a massive political problem. That is this. Darian, our main character, is the captain of this like pirate spaceship full of people who sort of know but don't really know each other. They take on a job, it goes wrong, everything begins to spiral from there. I love found family, I love pirates, I love space travel. I've heard really excellent things about this. I hear it's very, very engaging, full of characters you will fall in love with. It just sounds like a delight. The next two books, I also hope to listen to the audiobook before the end of the year. The first is The Mysterious Benedict Society. Again, I love whimsical middle grade stories, and I just feel like the audiobook of this would be a really fun experience and bring the characters and the setting and everything about it to life. This essentially follows like a secret society that uses children as special operatives, and after a peculiar ad appears in the newspaper, dozens of children enroll to take a series of mysterious mind-bending tests, and you, dear reader, can test your wits right alongside them. I love mysteries. I love narrators that are constantly breaking the fourth wall. I feel like this book will be a delight and definitely something that I will just love based on my own reading history and experience. I just have a huge soft spot for middle grade. Also, I want to get to How to Seal Your Own Fate by Kristen Perrin. I read the first book to this series, How to Solve Your Own Murder, last holiday season, and these are essentially like cozy murder mystery stories. So they have like a great mystery to anchor the plot and keep you flipping the pages, but they're also like very sweet and endearing, often set in like the British countryside. So they're like self-aware. I don't know. It's hard to say that like murder can be cozy, but this author really pulls it off, and the genre in general, like cozy murder mysteries, is just like one of my favorites. I just find them so soothing. We follow our main character in present day as she has just moved to the English countryside. She's settling in, but she is approached with a new mystery from the past that's also rearing its head in the present once again. So we have this sort of dual timeline situation. Great characters, small town vibes. I really loved the audiobook of the first one. I listened to it via audio, so I feel like the second one is also going to be excellent. And then the last three books I'm just going to run through quickly. They're all very short literary fiction, with the hope that I'll be able to cut down both my unread books and my reading challenge again before the end of the year. First is Liberation Day by George Saunders. This is a very, very lauded, very beloved short story collection. In fact, this author is known for his short stories. And this collection is said to be masterful in that it explores ideas of power, ethics, justice, and what it means to live in a community with fellow humans. Full of his trademark prose, I just feel like I'm going to really, really enjoy this. And I also feel like a really lovely read because I can just read a story here and there throughout the rest of the year. And I'm just really excited about it. I also want to get to Winter in Sokjo. I read another book by this author earlier this year, which was Pachinko Parlor, and I loved it. One of the most somber but beautiful books I have ever read. It just really made me think and touched me emotionally in a way that's even hard to describe. So with that in mind, I really want to get to her other release, which is another like somber release and read. And we follow our main character, who is a French-Korean woman who runs the front desk at this rundown resort in Sokjo, which is a city on the border between South and North Korea. And when a French graphic novelist begins to stay at this resort, they sort of form an unlikely friendship, and I believe the story takes off from there. This writer has an incredible ability of crafting some very interesting character relationships that are very unexpected and also say so much without saying much at all. Her books are really short, but yet they leave me like reeling and thinking in a way that's hard to articulate. So I really want to get to this book. I really feel like I'm going to love it. And then I also have The Crane Husband by Kelly Barnhill. Again, another author I really love. Kelly Barnhill also wrote When Women Were Dragons, a piece of speculative fiction I really enjoyed. So this short story, which is a retelling of The Crane Wife, just sounded really appealing to me, though it also appears quite dark. We follow our main character, who is a 16-year-old girl. She lives with her mother and younger brother. Her mother is an artist who's very, very talented, but much of the everyday household realities is up to our main character to maintain. But when her mother brings home a 6-foot-tall crane with a menacing air, things within the household begin to get very dark and very complicated. I feel like this book is going to haunt me and really get me thinking. I love short but impactful stories, and I feel like this is very much going to be that. Alrighty guys, that is my priority TBR before the end of the year. Let me know down below some books you hope to get to before 2026, because I would love to know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!